time to prep. I didn't have time to prep for the other one. I came in completely cold, and it was actually the first time that I had met the gentleman. So, I see. So, okay, what we're referencing right now, guys, is we did an interview with a gentleman in Cadillac, and he was very nice. He's very accommodating. It was we really appreciated his time, but it was last second. We had an interview scheduled for 3:30 last weekend. Our interview dropped out at 1 p. So we're like, we need to get an interview done. We've been trying to do this for like a month now, so like we'll take anyone. I messaged this guy as a last second hope. I genuinely have never met this guy in person before. I've just seen some of the escapades he's pulled online, so I thought it would either be an immediate no or no response. And basically he responded right away with his address and a picture of his house and said, "Get here fast, I don't have all night." Which is fine, I get it. We don't want to waste people's time. But basically, like, okay, cool, we get it. We get in there and stuff. And there's some breaks in the interview where we went and he showed us certain things. So there has to be a lot of editing to the interview. And also there needs to be some context provided to the interview before we can put this interview up. And there's also certain things that we spoke about that would most likely get us banned from YouTube. And this is a new burgeoning channel, and we don't want to get our channel destroyed right from the beginning. But that's the explanation why our very first interview can't go up on YouTube right away, at least in the format that it's in right now, because it does need a lot of editing, because there's some big breaks where he took us to his basement to show things. But welcome back to the Y Show, episode A. And right now, quick introduction, we got Joseph working the cameras right now, and him and I basically met over an ad in Facebook like a year and a half ago to shoot videos. I wanted to do a video for... You gotta have your phone on silent for interviews, man. What are you doing? But basically, I wanted him to shoot a video for my lead up to my boxing match, which ended up getting pushed back with the pandemic and everything. Everything kind of got slowed down, which we still want to do that. I plan on fighting November 27th. And here is our first interview that we'll be putting up on all platforms. So we're here with a good friend of mine named Dillon O'Laughlin, and Dillon and I basically met a few years back when I was working in Traverse City, Michigan. He worked at a gas station that I can't remember the name of. That's not important. And kind of, Dillon, explain who you are and the nature of our relationship. So,
yeah, I'm actually happy to be here. So basically, I'm just a small town kid. Grew up in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And then I moved here probably 10, 12 years ago. I was told this was paradise at least half the year. And
who did you know from here?
No one. It was honestly when I was 14. It's a very weird story, but basically I came up here. My mom had a job, and it was just me and my mom for a temp job, basically.
Now, was that your biological mom, or was that your... Because I know there's kind of a different, because as far as I knew, your biological mom didn't come into your life until later, right?
So to further in on that, actually, it's very curious. I was with my biological mom. Dad was out of the picture at 2, so my mom took care of me until the age of 9. And at that point,
see, I was wrong about that, because we had spoken about some not so great things that had happened between you and your mom. But anyways, continue.
Yeah. So at 9, basically, I moved to foster care, and I kind of got jumbled around the system. And until I found a permanent residence at about 10 and a half down in Madison, Wisconsin. So I was born in Sheboygan, and then ended up living
But that's
in
Sheboygan,
Madison.
Wisconsin, not Michigan,
yeah,
right?
A lot of people get that. They're like, "Oh, you're from a really nice area." No, not quite. I really don't. I'm glad, and that's... I'll lead into that later. Why I'll never go back to that memory. So from foster care, I actually. I got with a really good group of people, and then from there, they were going to transition me back to my mom. And my mom at the time was planning to take a gig in northern Michigan, Traverse City, right there on Keystone, actually. So basically what happened is I came up here, everything worked out. I actually transitioned from being in 9th grade, brand new middle school lower classman, to what at the time was 9th grade East Middle School. So I became the upperclassman.
TC East?
Yeah, no. TC East, yeah.
Okay.
Some of the names evade me now, but specifically I went from underclassman to upperclassman, and I had such a great experience because being an underclassman, you get picked on, you get kicked out, you get books thrown, everybody's testing you.
Okay.
Over here, I made like 20, 30 friends. I had the best time. You might not know what Shakers is, but I was introduced to Shakers, and
What's Shakers?
it was like a LAN computer
Here in Traverse City?
here in Traverse City.
So I've noticed, I don't know if this is a phenomenon that happens everywhere else, but I've noticed whenever a new kid would come to like our high school and such around here, they would like immediately be like, the girls would be curious about him, like wanting to date him, and like the new guy was the cool guy because they like there's no track record on him, so there's that like aura of mystery.
Yep.
So if you just like shut up and let people have that aura of mystery about you, that makes you cool.
Yep.
So like it's super easy to just kind of slide in because like most people have this conception like new kids get bullied, like you have to. I've only seen it work out good for them. Like now if they were a complete like, you know, not nice person and stuff like that, sure, but in all reality, like being a new kid seemed pretty awesome. I always wanted to be a new kid somewhere.
It was fun being the new kid. It was short-lived though.
Yeah.
I stayed up here for probably 4 months, and my mom, the job was done, so she had to go back. So I was basically traveling back, and then somewhere along the line, I ended up back in foster care again.
Okay.
Needless to say, my mom wasn't probably the best fit for taking care of me, but I guess that's one lesson that taught me values in life and where I wanted to end up. But
you came out here by yourself though, right?
Yeah. When I turned 18, I actually went and tried to take care of my mom for a little bit, and she took care of me. And basically, I was going to plan to get my own place and live in Madison, go to college there. Started a little early UW Madison. Decided it wasn't for me, so I heard about NMC up here opening up a very similar graphic design, and I was pursuing art at the time. So I moved up here, started going to college, and I loved it so much through relationships and through the community. Just a whirlwind of areas, but I always remember this place as such a great experience. So that's why I ended up here.
Now, what was your first winter in northern Michigan like? Because I've noticed the winter blues. Like everybody who finally decides, you know what, I want to be a full-time resident in northern Michigan. It's like, okay, enjoy that 7 months of winter and see how you like it. And most of them just shake right out. They're like, yeah, I'm done. Because our winter is actually, there was a list that was ranking the top 10 worst places to live in winter in the world. And actually, northern Lower Peninsula, Michigan ranks as number 2 because of our variance of temperature and our variance of precipitation and lack of sunshine. So we don't quite get the coldest, we don't get quite the most precipitation, but as we all know, we get like 60-degree temperature swings. Yep. And that's normal. Like, I thought that was normal. That is not normal.
I think it comes with the lake.
Yeah, the lake effect changes everything. So basically, okay, so the gas station we met at, yep. How did you end up working there?
So that's an interesting story. I started my business at local Tom's. Now everybody knows Tom's around here. It's a food store. And I mean,
kind of like an Aldi's or a if you're from the Florida area, Publix.
Yeah, but a little more personally owned. So as that kind of went on, I transitioned, made friends, and the one that I was working at, which was in the Cherryland Mall, went out of business. So I had to find another job.
That's right. There was a Tom's there.
Yeah.
That's right.
I used to work there.
Yeah.
I went to Osterman's. I was a jeweler for a little bit. Went out of business. Then I went to Verizon, and it went out of business.
Osterman's is where I had my first jewelry account.
Okay, so just periodically,
it
was like I was being shucked around from business to business, and they were going out, and so I had to find something concrete. So I moved to Shell. I worked at the Shell on South Airport. I actually lived up the road in Kings Court. I just finally officially bought my first place with my girlfriend at the time. Like, we paid cash for the thing. And I was, living my life. So I worked at that gas station, and sure enough, I'd always made friends with people that, smoke. I mean, that's just kind of where it is up here. We've always been a cannabis heaven, and that's what I love about northern Michigan. At the time, I was smoking, and I met this guy, his name's Ryan. And
to be clear, that it wasn't in reference to me. I do not smoke marijuana at all. So just putting it out.
You don't have to worry. I don't either anymore. But more so or less, this gentleman approached me in that regard, and he lived actually right down the road from me. And he's like, "Hey, do you wanna come work at this place? Come be here at this time." I didn't know where it was. I just was tired of working midnights. So I went there. I met the Sacco family, who actually owns quite a few different businesses, including in Detroit. Now, why I mentioned the weed portion of it is because it was very interesting. I was kind of like a weed salesman there, but for what was at the time called Spice.
Oh yeah, that
We
like
were-
K2 Spice, all that
We
stuff.
were a cornerstone for Spice.
That
Like,
was a huge boom for like head shops and different places. I know guys who were clearing like 10K a day off K2 and stuff.
so just the
Yeah.
gas station alone on Spice, because I had to keep track of it separately because they had to pay certain
They
taxes
sold
on it.
Spice there?
Yes,
Really?
and we sold probably almost 2,000 dollars of Spice a day.
That's insane.
In Traverse City, though.
That's insane.
Primarily Bay Hill. I mean, you had people coming from Thompsonville, from like everywhere, just because we had quantity of it, and it was. I knew what it was, and I'd tried it way back when, and it like made my entire face and jaw hurt, and I'll never touch it ever again. But you know, try everything once.
Yeah,
and
with
just-
that unregulated stuff, it's wild because they can put
synthetic-
whatever they want in it.
It was synthetic marijuana at the time, but that really introduced me to the foray of being less, I guess, reclusive. Like, one thing I had to do was get out of my shell.
Oh man,
That's
like,
kind of how we met.
yeah. Anybody like so one of my best friend of all time. He worked at the Easy Mart that doesn't exist in Mesik anymore, and you literally get to know everyone, everyone. Because the thing about the gas station is, it doesn't matter if you make $700,000 a year or $7 a year. Everybody needs gas
Right.
at certain points, and they're going to come in there at some point, and there has to be some type of interaction, unless they're going to like only stay by the pump. And most people have some type of habit. You know, maybe they need to pick up their ciggies, maybe they need to pick up their energy drinks, maybe they need to pick up their gum, and you get to know everyone. So yeah, I remember when I walked in there, I did not know. I was weird. I was working. I had just moved into Traverse City at the time. I was working at the hospital, and
Right down the road here, you were living in those apartments.
yeah, and like I'm down for making friends with anyone, but I did not know what to make of Dillon when I first. I was like, man, they're selling these like knockoff hats, and this feels kind of shiesty. Because all I remember the hats there, the fake
The
hats.
bowls in the little glass box.
Yeah, it was like a head shop / gas station, and I'm not into any of that. But I'm like, I'm down to be friends with anyone, and basically the relationship from there. I think you asked me to like work out with you sometime.
What it was is I seen your bands
Oh.
on your hand. You had bodyweight.com, or what is it?
Bodybuilding.com. I used to wear that
bodybuilding.com,
wristband.
and you
yeah.
had like this lanyard, and I was like, you know, I could talk to anybody about anything, and I'd always pick something that somebody wore, and I would talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Because people love talking about themselves.
Well, if you've ever read How to Win Friends and Influence People, the greatest way to get somebody to think you're a great conversationalist is to say as little as possible and only get them talking about themselves.
Right.
And there's been conversations I've said 17 words over an hour, and people are like, "You're so easy to talk to." It's like, yeah, because I didn't do anything. You know?
That's actually interesting, because that's one thing that Foster family put in front of me was Dale Carnegie's How to Make Friends and Influence People.
It's a fantastic book.
Yeah, and I read it. It was the audiobook, and I wrote several pages, and I won't go into the turmoil of the militarized upbringing that I had, but it definitely put a dent in my rambunctiousness. And
It is very helpful, but it can make you a sociopath, because one of the biggest concepts they teach you is how to win people over to your way of thinking, in which you just very simply implant an idea of a way you want somebody to think, but make them think it was theirs, even though it was your idea the entire time.
Yeah.
Because people are really egotistical, and if you just try to tell them to believe what you believe right off the bat, they're going to be like,
This was my
no,
idea.
I'm gonna resist that. But if you try and make them think that they had discovered it on their own, they're way more likely to do that. But basically, when did we go to GTAC the first time we hung out or something like that?
I think we went there, and then we went to Anytime Fitness. It was like a two-time situation.
So that was the Grand Traverse Athletic Club, and then Anytime Fitness, and
You described it as an old sock gym, and to this day, I still look at it like that. It's just
Yeah.
like that gritty old.
well, it's
gym.
new now.
No, I know.
Good friend of Ryan Hury, the new owner and operator, like it's super fancy and redone. But back then, it was an old people gym. Like you'd
But
see.
it was our old people.
I
gym.
love that place.
They
I
had
love the old
squat
school.
racks.
The weird, like foam floored upstairs area where
Yep.
we would have like sparring
The
sessions and
tumbling,
stuff.
the tumbling room, so to speak.
Yeah. I don't even know. But at that time, they weren't even really using it for much.
I remember a few times where I'd be trying to work out and I hear because
Yeah.
it was all wood up there. It was you played basketball if you wanted to, but I just loved the location. It was centrally located, and yeah, I did hear that Ryan Henry during the pandemic actually bought it and spruced it up.
Yeah, the new sign looks nice. Everything looks really
He's
nice.
still trying to sell the old sign. I seen it on Facebook Marketplace.
So I like honestly, like looking back, I remember we started training together. We started doing like strength conditioning, and then how did you just say like you wanted to have an MMA fight one day? And I'm like, okay, cool, let's do it. Like,
So believe it or not, I have a great relationship with Shannon and Christy. Shannon and Christy would be the longest standing foster family. They basically took guardianship over me too. They're pretty well off, and they've flipped houses, primarily taking care of some of the most challenged kids in Wisconsin. I'm talking kids that
like you.
no, like kids that have manslaughtered people. Like I was living with people that were raped and yeah, it was weird. Anyway, moving forward.
I wasn't trying to say that he committed manslaughter or rape. I was. It was a joke at his expense of pretending like he was slow. But anyways, continue.
Can we not say that now? So these people, they're very highly intelligent. They're skilled in
They sound
psychology.
interesting though. They sound like they're
very eccentric.
slightly socially different because like your relationship sounded more like kind of like a business relationship, like because they would like offer you certain what I'd call carrots. So like they'd offer you this thing if you did this thing. Because I remember you were telling me like they offered you a certain loan if you started up this or if you did that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're very power motivated. So like you have to give a little to get something, but you also have to have a plan. And you know it is carrot on the stick with most of their type of learning. You know, if you want to play the video game, well, you have to do this schedule, this chores. But to par away from them, the reason to answer your question is I was coming back to visit them because I frequently do when I go back to Wisconsin. Occasionally, I try to get once a year, but now most of the time it's just whenever I can. At the time, I was playing soccer with them. Now, soccer growing up was one thing I could look forward to every Sunday. Every Sunday was soccer, and having a ton of kids, we had a huge soccer game, whether it was at the park. And Shannon, he used to be the captain of the UW soccer team, so he was pretty well off as far as being talented. My goal in life was always to kick his ass. I wanted to beat him. I was tired of always, he'd overpower me. He was bigger. One time, I came back.
Like to kick his ass, like
not physically. No.
It's soccer?
At soccer, I just wanted to school him. I've been toted over and like outtooled in every sport by him, and I honestly just I wanted to stick it to him. So I practiced that entire year. I trained my little man in there, and
but that's like a crazy goal because like one-on-one soccer is not even really
it wasn't.
a thing.
It was just it was me, it was Jacob, and then it was him and the other kid that was there because they downsized. They started, taking care of less kids.
Okay.
And so I went up against him and I juked the fuck out of him like 10 or 20 times, and he's like, "Man, you got crazy footwork. You should box." And I was like, "Why? Why do you say that? I want to be a better soccer player." At the time, I'm like 24, and I didn't think about it. It didn't resonate. But then I met you shortly after that, and like I think it was talking about Bill Buston, how we kind of connected with that. And my ex used to box with him.
Oh, okay.
And then it just came to fruition. You're like, "Well, you want to spar?" And I'm like,
"Yeah,
sure, but I'm gonna get my ass kicked." And I probably would have, but you didn't want to. You just wanted to hold pads, and you wanted to teach me. And from there, built this strong, strengthened relationship of like me
and Bill Bustons is a local gentleman who owns Trigger Boxing. But enough about Bill. Anyways, so basically, I remember we started training stuff like that. Started working on the pads, all these different things, and so back then, USA Boxing was still regulated. So to get into that was relatively difficult because you had to get the coaches license, full background check. The athlete had to get that. So when did you decide you wanted to compete? Because I remember you were like, "I want to have a fight," and I'm like, "Okay, cool, we can get it done." And this is back in the Wild Wild West days of Michigan MMA, where literally a guy from the crowd could come in and main event a show. Like there was no you didn't do medicals. Like you didn't have to go do a physical for your fight. Like you just kind of weighed in and fought the next day.
I felt like it was probably one of the most backwoods weigh-ins I've ever seen in comparison to like what UFC and any other type of sanctioned places. I mean,
it was unsanctioned fights. So back in the day before MMA was regulated in the state of Michigan, it was all unsanctioned fights. So I remember seeing back in the day at a Hooters, they had a local MMA poster. It was for Big Red's MMA, and it's like 12-1 so-and-so fighting for the welterweight championship. And if you looked at the bottom of the poster, it said, looking for an 0-0 to compete for the welterweight championship. So they were like looking for somebody who had like never, or like it was like looking for someone to compete for
him to steamroll,
like anybody.
basically.
And like there used to be like wild mismatches, setup fights, and actually your fight was intended to be a setup fight. You know, because typically you'd have gyms that would run the promotions, and they would be the ones who would like matchmake for the gym and run the promotion. Well, they don't want their gym to look like it's not good, so they would match guys up with other guys who had no business being in the cage and had no business fighting. You know, super dangerous. There's actually a really famous video of a gentleman who was allowed to fight, I think it was in Sault Ste. Marie, who had a prosthetic eye, gets head kicked, and if you watch the video, the eyeball's rolling around on the bottom of the cage. It's Jose Johnson kicks eye
It's
out.
a fake eye.
Yeah, the guy had a fake eye, which you would never get sanctioned with that. But so basically, you decided you wanted to compete, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'll train you through it. I make no promises. Like, that's something I've always been big about. Like, I never say I'm any good at anything. My biggest rule is if you think what I'm doing is wrong, question me. And that was what was fun with Dillon, because he's like the only person that just would never trust me about anything until
I'd be
you
a
like
contrarian.
realized it. Like, was like, oh, okay, this is right. And I'm talking like anything.
I was a contrarian.
like,
Like everything, I would always have some other viewpoint on.
well, I think you've been effed over so many times in your life. So you
Partly.
kind of like, anybody that you've trusted has like done wrong by you. So I could have said, you know, anything you wanted to hear. I could have been as legit with you as possible, but you didn't care because you've had people who have done the same thing that have used it against you.
Well, a lot of
So-
people in society and in relationships, they build people in one of two ways. They either are very distant and, you know, they'll almost poke at you,
Yeah.
or they'll unload their whole box of things right on top of you
Yeah.
and just, hey, this is
Yeah.
me. Do you like me?
Yeah.
You know, and I kind of did a little bit of the first part
Yeah.
where I was just picking out what you had. And then when I met you, when we actually spent time in the gym, I pretty much told you everything.
Well, I think there was a big part of you that didn't understand that I wasn't trying to get anything from you. Because I
Right.
think there's a part of you that's like, okay, why is he doing this all for free? Why is he doing, like, I think there was a part of you that's like, there's got to be something here. Like, because I don't think you were ever used to somebody just doing something out of the kindness of their heart. You know?
No. And actually, to further in on what you're talking about is when I met him, previously I've been trying to find other people to work out with, and a lot of the people I was talking to were the wrong kind of people, the people that were jacked already, you know, that you know, I felt like were the epitome of what a workout was, because I had this desire. I mean, I can remember when I was growing up drawing like male figures that were bulking.
Yeah.
So I obviously had this desire to see that in myself. When I met you, you were not the epitome of what
That was back
a
when I
bodybuilder
was like,
was.
That was back when I was like 351 pounds, and I was in like a horrible place. And like, it was funny because I've always been really good to manage my bad habits and not let it like spill into over things. Like if I make an agreement, I'm in all these different things, and like things turned out okay. But anyways, getting back to it. So we decided you're going to compete, and that camp was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. Corralling this guy was an absolute nightmare, and they set him up with a gentleman named, was it Jose Urenas?
Yep.
And at the time, I believe, no, Jesus. Jesus Urenas, okay. So basically,
I was
at the
supposed
time,
to knock out Jesus, apparently.
yeah, he was a college wrestling coach. From what I remember, he was at least like a proficient wrestler, and it was, in my opinion, a setup fight because I think they didn't think that you were like being trained properly at all, and like I was the only person to train you for that entire process.
Right.
And the camp was a nightmare. I remember you left for Florida for a week just randomly, and then
I was staying up late. I would go out. I would eat pizza
Yeah.
on a regular basis. My diet was terrible.
How did you make weight?
I didn't. That's what I was gonna say. I didn't even have to make weight. I literally took.
What'd you weigh in at?
I weighed at 184, so I was 1 pound under with sweatpants on.
Yeah, that was another thing, because when you like went to make weight, I'm like, I don't even know, because I remember you had just been gone. We'd been separated since then. You didn't even have to cut any weight, did you?
No, I didn't. I didn't cut weight. I literally was freestanding in that. I
So
actually.
you walked around 185
Yep.
and all these things. And basically, so the fight, I remember pulling up, we get all organized. Another one of my friends comes to like work as a warm-up partner and such, and I remember just being like, this is bad. Like I'm a person, if I say I'm gonna do something, I do it. But I was really mad because it's like, it was under the premise that you would do the things I told you to do.
Correct.
And for like 2 weeks you did, and for like 2 weeks you didn't. So like, I hate putting my name on things that I'm not completely sure about. But I'm like, I already said I would, and I didn't add any caveats to the agreement. So even though I don't want to, we're already here. So let's go in, let's do it. We do all the mental preparation, we do the warm-ups. And basically, long story short of what I saw with the fight, it was one of the cleanest knockouts I've seen in my entire life. Like, the guy was out before he hit the ground, but it was very interesting because I remember I told you, 2 months ahead of time that you're going to finish him with the right hand. I literally told you that.
Yeah, it was one
of the first times we trained together. And basically, the game plan was, I remember going over it. Okay, we're going to stuff 2 takedowns. He's probably going to freak out. You're probably going to knock him out. And that's literally what happened. It is straight up what happened. He stuffed 1 takedown. He's like, okay, whatever. Then stuffed another one, and you could see the panic. And he's like, oh, no. And he's like flailing. I think his striking wasn't great at the time. And then Dillon kicked him in the nuts on purpose. Something we worked on. No, that was it was an accident. Actually,
it was an inside leg kick, whether he likes to say it or not. I think he just was so winded. The second takedown, actually.
Well, I think he was trying to get a break. Because the thing is, when you miss takedowns, not only does that require effort,
right,
but the mental side of conditioning is a huge thing. So panic will make you get tired faster.
The thing of it is, when you watch the second takedown attempt, I literally took him on a tilt-a-whirl.
Well, yeah, you got into a sprawl position at one point.
Well, I was bouncing on one leg, and
I saw
in the
you were going to pull guard, and I was going to be so pissed off at you because you're in the sprawl position.
You told me beforehand. You said,
stand up,
stay up,
stand up, because you had him in the sprawl position. You had a head and arm, right? Which is something we worked on.
I was just literally underhooks with my thumb and my freaking hand.
Because you could have turned him. We can post a link to the fight on the channel, and then basically there's a couple exchanges. He sets it up, and it was bad. It was a very bad knockout. It was one of the type of knockouts where he was out before he hit the ground, and I was genuinely concerned. If you watch the video, I'm like, go check on him, dude. This is not good.
You did. So to talk on that, actually, I was so pumped with adrenaline. Being that it was my first fight, I didn't know what to expect. So being in there, I kind of looked at it like, I'm going to run this as long as I can. To say that I wasn't, more scared than tired is a lie. I genuinely had to take a shit a minute before my fight. I literally was on the toilet. Do you not remember that? I said, I'll be right back. So I went, I took the shit. I had the butterfly shits on the toilet, and then I go out and I'm fighting.
Well, I was worried. That's why part of the game plan also was I was worried about your conditioning because we weren't getting the road work that we were supposed to get. We weren't getting the conditioning that we were supposed to get.
We just started working on takedown defense 3 weeks left.
3 weeks left, started working on takedown defense, and I am I feel like I'm a decent striking coach. I've worked with different pro fighters, stuff like that. I won't claim to be anything. Anybody wants to test me on it, that's cool. But with wrestling, I know basics and a couple tricks.
Well, you brought in a gentleman to play with me, but
I brought in.
He wasn't
Yeah, I didn't
He didn't work out.
Dillon for sure did not work wrestling with anybody who was as good as Jose or Jesus was supposed to be.
He was way better than probably anybody, but he still.
But he didn't commit. I think if he would have been able to get on a single and bite down.
Yep.
But I think he felt a couple strikes and said, I don't like this. Because you would notice, and that's why I liked the style that we derived, because he didn't commit on either takedown. Once he got a little resistance, you digging for that, he's like, because if he would have bit down really hard on that first one,
I would have been against the cage.
He might have got it, but I think just the resistance, that's the thing, when you're fighting somebody that is air quotes self-trained, you think that you're going to get the takedown without any resistance.
Another jab after it, so it was like a jab and then a double jab, and I pulled that second jab back and basically
and we'd worked on the broken rhythm.
Yeah,
that was the biggest thing that I would annoy you with on the pads is I would intentionally break the rhythm, because if you fight on rhythm, you're a lot easier to counter, and people know what you're going to do.
Right.
So when you're fighting on the half beat, people are like, oh crap, I can't. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So having that broken rhythm is a lot harder to defend.
At that point too, I said, he was kind of, timidity. You said that he was kind of like
Yeah.
he'd settled down a little bit. So I was playing with his emotions as
Well,
far
he had
as
backed into the cage by himself. You didn't
Yeah.
even feather.
No.
You didn't even use footwork to back him in the cage.
No.
Like, you just walked forward, and he's like, yeah, I don't like this. Because you had a decent amount of reach on him. But basically, so that's about the fight. I'm just going to take a check on the prompts here. So let's see. So going into the fight, do you think you'd ever want to compete again in combat sports, or do you think you're done? Like,
so
you got what you wanted out of it, and
I kind of sat there and I realized, like,
you had mixed feelings about
what
the
I
whole thing.
did to this guy, I would never want to be done to me.
Yeah.
Because it was earth shattering. Like, there's 2 videos actually out there, and the one that my friend shot in the stadium, he was in the stands about 150 feet back. You hear the crack of like lightning.
Oh, it was bad. It was really bad.
It's just like
it was an audible. Yeah, it was
like
bad.
just that, and that to feel like that could happen to me. I'm not afraid of it, but I know I've met people, and I know what happens when you get smacked a few times like that.
Yeah.
And you lose your faculties by the time you're 50.
And that type of knockout only happens when you're shook.
Yeah.
That because he didn't even commit on that hook very hard.
No.
He just knew he had to throw something. So when he was standing here and he threw over like this, you just were inside of it so fast because he's like, eh.
Well, he bit the jab. He bit the second jab. Like,
Yeah.
he was thinking he was going to move in for that after the first jab, and then seen the second one. So he feigned back and came with that.
And since he moved himself back into the cage, he didn't have anywhere to go.
No.
Yeah.
And so I already was countering his next throw. So it was just like basically a rock and a hard place. There was nowhere for him to go, and
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna let up. As far as fighting again, I've got my kids now. You know, I can't say that's an actual excuse, but I think a lot of drive was sucked out of me afterwards because I'd accomplished quite a bit at that point. I had proven that I could do what I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
I made myself believe more in myself, and that's what the accomplishment was. It was really just about you
Yeah.
did too. So just to let the viewers know, you know, one thing that's really great before a fight is the coach and fighter contact, and a lot of us don't get to see that in nowadays.
Well, also I would say like technique, whatever. My greatest skill as a coach, by far and above anything else, is I'm so uniquely talented at getting people to believe in themselves more than they could on their own.
Absolutely.
That is like, that's my one claim. Like, yeah, techniques, there's probably better, blah, 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 but getting people to perform levels above what they could do on their own from a mentality standpoint is kind of what I think separates me.
It really,
you know?
it does. The separation is defined with your mentality. All entirely anything that you do.
Because if you watch during the fight, like, very calm, you're trying to allow, it's like, okay, cool, we got to focus on doing this,
Yep.
this, and this, because I can tell you're the type of person that if I started getting crazy with you, it's just going to raise you to, like, a paranoia level. So, like, having me as, like, a bring you back down to earth person is what you needed.
I think
some
anybody
people you
needs
have
that.
to, like, go really hard on, like, okay, come on, because some people are kind of, like, deer in the headlights, like, you know, and then there's just so many different mentalities. So, like, also, I don't train and coach everybody the same way. I kind of, like, help them with how they are personally, you know, and I think because I start off with the level, like, my number one rule is I'm not God. I don't know everything. So if there's something I'm coaching you that just doesn't work or you don't like
Gotta
it,
let you know.
or there's not, yeah, and like most coaches aren't that way. It's like, nope, this is the way. Sorry, you got to do it this way.
What speaks most to is your versatility. You're very accommodating to that. I would love to, obviously, have you as my trainer again. And as far as future fights go, I think
It'd have to be a lot different this time.
I'm nearing that position where I've lost that glow that you would say that you get
Yeah.
after you win a fight and you do what you accomplish. I'm hungry again, and
Yeah.
I've been working out. I do train quite often as far as hands and.
Well, you have to really want it because it's not like you're going to get paid.
Right. No.
It just has to be something that you really want. Like, if you are lukewarm on it, there's no reason, man.
Right.
There's no reason to take unnecessary punishment. Just like for your fight, what was the biggest thing? There's no reason for you to take unnecessary punishment. We're here to win. We're not here to fight. You know, like, that's what makes the most sense.
I was probably so pumped on test. Like, I wasn't taking HGH or anything, but I was just so at the peak of my testosterone
Yeah, saying you're
levels.
pumped at test. No, So I think what he means is adrenaline.
Well, it was like a forward.
Adrenaline releases a little bit more test, but it's mostly adrenaline. It
not during the
stimulates
fight.
those.
I'm talking about like leading up to it. Like we were lifting 5, almost 7 times a week, just almost every day. Like
Yeah.
And I was doing other extracurriculars.
Well, we didn't have a lot of time, so basically, I was focusing on strength and conditioning, striking, and then praying to God this dude can't take him down. Because if you got a guy who had like a blue belt on jiu-jitsu, we probably would have had a bad time. But I think
had a
with the
little
type of
karate
striking I designed for you, it would have been hard to take you down anyways because there's always the threat of that right hand. But so it sounds like you might want to compete again. But let's move up to current day. So what are your biggest goals right now? Are one of your big goals trying to compete again, or one of your big goals trying to make yourself a millionaire? Like, what's your big goal right now?
I mean, everybody would love to have financial freedom. Of course, that's my main goal, is paying off some debts. I'm not without debts. I have a beautiful home and a beautiful family. So financial freedom would be definitely a good goal. More attainable than I ever thought, but I'll get into more of that later.
It does seem like it, but is there a part of you with the way the market is positioned right now where there's a part of me, I've done very well for myself. I'm very thankful. I'm in a good position financially. I had a lot of investments go through for me. Life is good, but there's a part of me that thinks with the market being so artificially inflated right now that none of it's going to matter. All right, so jumping back into here, we were just had to take a break because the camera battery died. We were speaking about crypto and day trading because I know that is your primary source of income right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't surprised because I know you're like a legitimate crazy person, as am I, to identify somebody as but like, how did you feel comfortable making that jump? That's like so crazy to me to just be like, you know what, I'm day trading now, because you had like a pretty good job.
Yeah, last year I made over 6 figures.
Yeah.
And I mean, just to clarify, that job was selling cars. So I mean, it's not very hard work, but to genuinely put in the hours and the time and to framework.
What were you averaging per week as far as hours?
62.
Okay, that's up there.
Yeah, I mean, I did my whole average over the year, and I accumulated that I made about $29 an hour. Now, this is of somebody who's never had any financial background. I mean, I just,
that's not bad.
Off the cuff. Prior to that, previous years, I was leading up to it, building my customer base. But honestly, what I realized is that, that business is cutthroat.
Yeah.
It's very cutthroat. And if I'm going to put my blood, sweat, and tears and time into it and sacrifice my time with my family, these summers, these beautiful summers we have up here in Traverse City,
yeah,
I'm going to do it on my terms.
Okay.
And what's the best way to be at work from home? You can work at a business where you're on Zoom, you're still working,
yeah,
you're still committing your time. I can't do that with my little 4-year-old. He's in our face 24/7. Trading is a way to be versatile with it, and it's risk management. I've lived my life on risk most of the time. As a survivor, that's kind of how you are. But I feel like the way that the market is right now, you'd be stupid not to commit yourself to it.
Yeah, that's the stuff. There's like, for me, I already am on my phone enough. So the reason I don't like day trade and buy upstarts and then resell and things like that is I see other people that do that, and they're just always checking, and for me it's like I've already done really well in my assets, and I've bought only like long-term assets, so I'm good on that. But then I'm just like, that might be fun because I'm on my phone all the time anyway,
right? And
it's like, but I'm trying really hard right now not to tie myself even closer to technology, because I probably have a minimum of 8 hours screen time per day.
So most of the time, if you want to get into real semantics of it, if you operate on a 10% system, and I mean 10%, like you put 10% of your day, you invest 10%, and when you hit 10% of that 10%, you pull out, and that's your take for the day.
Well, there has to be some type of system, because I know eventually what happens is, oh, well, I mean, I got 10% off more, maybe I could get a bunch if I waited longer. No, like, you can't do that, because eventually
you gotta have the stones to be able to pull out if you're tanking, because most of the time, one thing I've learned, I've stayed in something that has completely reversed after I left it.
Yeah.
When it shot out the water, or I've lost my ass on things that
You could have broke even on or
that I
something.
not even broke even at. I could have taken a $200, $300 loss on, and instead of doing that, I walked away with $1,500 loss.
Jeez,
And
man. What's the most you lost in one day?
Well, I guess even currently on one of my long positions, I'm down just because the market trend in the sector isn't popular right now. I'm down $4,000, but that's fine. I've compensated that with other wins.
Bro, I've had in one day I made $30,000 in value. Of course, I genuinely believe unless you sell,
You don't lose.
neither lose nor make money. And then in another day, I think it dropped like 31,000 in one day. Like the fluctuation's crazy, but I just don't care.
The market does this.
Yeah, I just don't care. Like, it's a parabola. So basically, if you look at the trends right now for my particular holding, we're in the pulling back of the slingshot phase.
Right.
Because my particular holding typically pumps last after everything else, but
Right.
pumps hardest. So right now, that's your main source. Let's see if there's anything else we need to go over here.
Well, you did talk about what are my goals, and I started with financial. So
Financial freedom,
I
yeah.
want to elaborate on that. The ultimate goal.
How much money is financial freedom to you?
Well, that's a great question. It's basically having an average of $50,000 expendable income every year.
Okay.
So, however long I see the rest of my life, say that I'm going to last till I'm 75.
Okay.
So I'm halfway there. But if you do the math on that, I would need whatever that year is times 50,000.
You're
right
37.5, bro?
No, I'm 32.
Okay.
So 70. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm 32. Okay, so my math is a little different there, but in reality, you need about 35 years worth of $50,000. So
okay.
if you want to put it in perspective, I'd say a cool
about $2 million.
$2 million.
About $2 million.
One and a half to two would be realistic for any financial freedom.
What's really sad about day trading, though, is if any of that stuff like really pops off with the new taxes they're proposing, you're going to be paying like 56% on that.
Well, that's why like you mentioned, long positions.
That's why I have long
and
positions.
equities, because those don't have to be cashed out. IRAs and
you can borrow against them.
Yep, you can do that, and on top of it, you actually pay less taxes if you hold for the fiscal year.
Yes, and that's why rich people don't really care about capital gains taxes, because on their major holdings, they don't sell and take profit. They just borrow against it at like 0% and just use that money and then pay it back, and they're basically getting free money over and over again.
Well, I think the day trading aspect is honing a craft, because when we're not in a volatile market like this, we're either in a bear market or in just a dead stream.
Yeah.
And when you are in that kind of market, how are you going to make a residual income? Because things aren't going to
takes a lot of work. Right now, yeah, there's
learning risk management to me is
calculated risk. Calculated risk. You have to.
That's like the best opportunity that I can do right now. I'm only a year into this. I have no prior knowledge. I mean, I have a little precursors. I know semblance of an understanding. I foresee where we're headed. I'm not going to say what I think that is, but
it's bad.
Just in general, we might see a complete steer of currency and the value of how it's attained. And
if we
goods
continue
and
the
services.
trend we're going right now, I can't see how logically it makes sense to keep USD the world reserve currency. It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Because the reason USD can get away with what it gets away with is because it's the world reserve currency. So, like, it's a blockade from... if you don't know what the world reserve currency is, basically the U.S. currency is what all other currency values are based off of. So the thing is when U.S. currency becomes worth less, everything becomes worth less.
Right.
And inflation is getting crazy right now, and I think a lot of countries are going to be like, hey, stop printing so much because you're making everything worth less. Because if inflation goes up in the U.S., inherently, inflation goes up everywhere because the USD is the world reserve currency.
I think when it boils down to that, though, there's going to be a change. There's going to be a break. Like the break before was, the U.S. housing market crashing and regulations being clamped down on tight. I mean, you used to be able to get a second, third mortgage.
But that is nothing compared to the change of a world reserve currency. Like, if you look at the biggest financial, it was like August 10th, 1975, when they went away from the gold standard, was like the beginning of the end. Because...
Well, it was illegal to own gold. You couldn't have gold. At a certain point, I think it was before the actual 1934
they buy it back.
crash.
They buy it back.
Well, no, it was illegal. Roosevelt made it illegal
To own gold?
to own gold.
I don't know about that, but I just know with the current market right now, there's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of money to be lost. So
Yeah.
if you see anybody who's trying to, like, suggest that you buy booby coin or all these different things, like, please do your own research. Please look up things. Like,
Only invest what you can afford to lose.
Only invest what you can afford to
And
lose.
it's not financial advice.
It's not financial advice, but I would say if you want to look at something that to me is interesting, that's also a startup coin where there's actually a high possibility of a major return, I'm interested in CSC, man. Casino Coin, because their entire idea is cornering the market of being the online casino currency. And I'm like, oh, that's really smart. I like that. And it's like 0.005 right now. So you could buy $100 worth of them and, like, don't do it because I said, but, like, the nice thing is losing $100 stings a lot less than losing your entire life savings.
Right, and then you stand to exponentially gain as much as you possibly can. But none of that is ever financial advice. It's just suggestive.
Yeah, but some of them, like the meme coins, like if you see an influencer touting a coin, they're just pumping and dumping. A lot of cryptos legalize pump and dumps. I mean, all the holdings I hold, like the reason when I lost like $25,000 of value in one day, I literally didn't care, is because I'm planning on holding these for like 5 to 7 years.
Right.
So I'm just like, cool, I didn't sell, so I didn't lose anything.
Digital currency is the turning of the age. I'm invested in a lot of blockchains. I'm invested into like decentralizing that part of what cryptocurrencies are.
That is the funny thing with all the cryptocurrencies says that they're decentralized. Like, they're basically all centralized, man.
Well, the fact that blockchain records every time that you do a process that basically records something, it actually allows for. You ever heard of NFTs?
I just can't get over that you said process proceeds.
Exactly. I wanted to try it on for size. But, okay, so process of things. I can bring on my British accent.
Sorry, I just love getting people flustered. Continue.
So, for just the whole digital currency aspect of things, you got to really look into how is it going to be safe? How are you going to be protected? Because that's what the big money is going to want. Any big money is going to want to know that everything that they have is secure, and how can they work it, manipulate it, manage it, and work with it.
Yeah, and I genuinely believe that 5 years from now, Bitcoin is no longer going to be the #1 crypto. No, it's not even going to be close.
No.
I think, in my personal opinion, I think Bitcoin's going to, like, I don't know if it'll go to zero, but it's going to be worth far less once people start to see the technology's not good. To do, like, transactions for...
don't really know that you can only mine a certain amount of them. There's 21 million.
And it halves every year.
Yeah. Well, now they just made it easier, 27% easier to mine it because China just banned it.
Yeah. Oh, they were taking up a huge part of it.
Yeah.
But basically, like, if you don't know anything about crypto, like, the reason Bitcoin was groundbreaking technology is it solved the double spend problem. So, if you send me a picture on Facebook Messenger, I have that picture now, but you still have the picture. Well, if that was currency, that's not cool, because what's going to stop you from spending that currency that you still have that you sent me? So with the blockchain technology, with the blockchain technologies, when you send them a part of that blockchain, you are no longer able to use that because you no longer possess that. That's what, because I always wondered for the longest time, I'm not going to lie, like, why do people like Bitcoin? And now I get it. And what's really neat about it, but really bad about it, is it makes you your own bank, okay? So the thing is, we hate the banks and everything, but it's kind of nice when you can't access your account, your bank can help you. If you lose the master key to get into a crypto wallet, no one's going to help you.
Right.
You're lost it all.
Well, that's what the U.S. government's trying to do. They're trying to figure out, and they want to find people who can do that, who can crack into those wallets, because... Again, the people that have the money want to control it.
But certain ones only allow you so many, like, tries at a password. There's actually a gentleman who almost lost $137 million worth of Bitcoin. He figured out the password at the end. But, yeah, like, it would corrupt the files. So, like, if you put in enough times, it, like...
Well, you heard about the guy who had $1 billion that passed away recently.
And they can't figure out his codes?
Yeah. So,
God.
There's no willing
So much money.
of any of that. The thing that I'm really concerned about, and what really gets me, is, so, NFTs. The American market of...
Those are garbage.
I will beg to differ on that, only for two reasons. Art, and for the other reason that they create an actual physical image for a blockchain sequence. So
No, I understand it. It's basically, imagine that picture I
trading
sent you on
card game,
Facebook.
basically.
I no longer have it.
Right.
The thing is, like, right now with NFTs, there was literally an NFT called the Pixel that sold for like $730,000, and it's just a pixel. Same thing with Bitcoin. NFTs, the reason, so a lot of cryptocurrencies have actual inherent value because they can be used as a bridge currency. They can be used as small money transfers. They're faster. They because it costs money to send money places, so they can transfer money a lot easier for a lot cheaper rate. But with NFTs, they're only worth money because people decide they're worth money. With a painting, you can actually hold something.
Right.
With an NFT, it takes
you
away
can
that
have
allure.
copies of something, but the beauty of it is that multiple people can have copies of it, so it's no longer just this one.
But then that defeats the purpose.
It doesn't, only for the fact that that one painting. Like let's take for instance.
So do you think they'll be able to make albums NFTs?
Yes.
Because there's gonna be somebody that's just going to copy it to a regular file and then ruin it. That's gonna happen.
Let's look into that. Right now, you can pretty much get any kind of information off the internet.
Yeah.
It's unchained. There's nothing stopping you if you look hard enough or you have a VPN and any of that crap. It's really difficult for the people, the talented artists out there, the people that actually commit themselves to do something, which ties into another thing that I was going to tell you about. Besides financial freedom, I want to excel more on my art aspect of it, and NFTs are a big way for me to do that. I've actually put my artwork out there on, it's called OpenSea.
Okay.
And Mintable, and I mean, I give you a link so that maybe
we can check that out.
Channel.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to, like, you met me and I told you a great story, or I talked to you about my life and you didn't know me, or I met you and you wanted to buy my precious piece of artwork that I worked on. Now I spent 15-20 hours on pieces and I paint them. I don't want to sell you just one and then never have it again. I'd rather be able to sell you and the guy down the street a really cheap copy of it because you all think it's cool.
But there will never be a situation where one of those people could not figure out a way to copy that and distribute it to everyone.
But if they did that, it wouldn't be on blockchain. It would be separate. That's where See, NFTs operate on a blockchain and they create a memory stamp.
People are when things are free, when I watch, or I allegedly may have watched movies that are in theaters at a different place, I didn't care that it was just somebody holding their camcorder recording it and it was crappy quality because it was free.
Right.
And then was I like, I want to go buy this movie? No.
So the sentiment really...
That's allegedly, by the way. I may or may not have done that.
The sentiment lies into the value. So proposed value versus the anonymity of assumed value. So,
but it's the same thing with albums. So, if you have a CD and you burn it and I get the copy of it, I don't have an album or the CD or the artwork or anything. I don't care. I've got the music.
You're selling the memory. You're selling the perceived value. When you buy a Claude
People don't care about that, dude.
They do?
They don't.
Okay, so say for instance, right, that place that right there. I just told you I put that up yesterday.
Yeah.
I got both those for free.
Okay.
I put them together.
Yeah.
Now, how much do you think that wood is worth?
A lot right now because lumber's super expensive.
But I paid $0 for it.
Yeah.
So in monetary value, that is a very valuable piece because I saved myself that money.
Yeah.
But in physical value, that is a lot of money.
Yeah, sure, of course.
So that's how NFTs kind of play the similar aspect, is you're buying the value of
I
a
get
substance.
it. I get it. I 110% get it because it's like shoes. So you have real Air Force Ones and you have a copy. It's like diamonds. I have fake diamonds, you have real diamonds. Most people don't care.
Right.
Most people don't care. They're like, well, you don't have the actual NFT copy. Don't care. Don't. Still have it.
Anybody who would say that, you could easily attain it. The thing for me is just, it's a sequence of seeing art progress And
Oh, it's cool. I think it's really neat.
I mean, I can sell my paintings down at an art show here and make maybe $100 in a day.
You'd be surprised. There's local artists that
don't
rack up cash, man.
But the NFT is like, okay, his name is Logic.
It's hot right now. It's
Base
hot.
Logic.
Yeah.
Base Logic literally captures, I think, $600,000 a day right now, just from digital.
Yeah. They're
digital
hot right now.
NFTs.
What is it? What is it called? Not cyberpunks. Like some of the original NFTs that were free that are like going for like millions now. Something punk, digital punk, crypto punk. Yeah. And like, no, I totally understand it. I get the concept. It's really neat because I can own something digitally that other people can't own. But it's kind of the same idea of like when the Wu-Tang Clan sold that one album and Martin Shkreli bought it for like $6 million. If he copied that and put it on the internet, people wouldn't be like, "Well, I don't have an extra." No, they just wanted the music.
So in order to get that music, you had to pay that copy. If you didn't have that, it would be an unofficiated copy that you would be playing.
Yeah.
And computers will be programmed in the future to recognize that's an unofficiated
110%
piece.
And computers
you get in trouble.
Yeah, like computers were supposed to get you in trouble for burning CDs.
True.
Like that. That's the thing.
There's a freedom of speech. There's like regulations.
The people who want to like you know this. People will do anything to get something for free. It can be something super petty. They might lie about there being too many pickles on their burger to get an extra burger for free. And do you think they care that there's no pickles on the other burger when they actually do like pickles? No, because they got a free burger. Like, it's the same idea.
That sounds a little too close to home.
Like, they don't care. They don't
sounds
care.
like that's been done before.
I'm actually overly nice to fast food workers.
I feel bad. Like I walk by and I'm like, man, I'm glad I don't have
There's
to do
been
that right
so
now.
So we're getting like close to the end of the interview here, and we can always
Absolutely.
move on to do more. And we'd love to have you back on. But a short story, like there has been, I think, 3 or 4 separate occasions in my life where I've gotten to like the second window of a somebody that I'd ordered food from at Taco Bell. There's this one time where this girl, she was crying, and I'm like, oh no. She's like, "You're the only person that's been nice to us all day," and they gave me like a bunch of free stuff. Like, I've gotten so much free stuff just by being a decent human being. So maybe this is a public service announcement right now. Like, be thankful that there are actually people working there, because there's a lot of people that won't work at those places right now. And just be a decent human being to the people handling your food. And even if it's just for the fact that they are handling your food, and you don't see how they prepare it before you get it. Like, because I watch people that just, like, cuss out people that work in fast food. Like, okay, I'll make you a deal. If they get your order wrong 3 times, you are more than welcome to yell at them and freak out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But if it's not over 3 times, like if the line takes a long time, that is
What
act
about when
of
you
God.
get your order and you get home because you don't check it, because we all want to,
And they get your order wrong.
or they get
That's on you
they
for
just
not checking.
miss stuff.
That's on you for not checking. That is on you for not checking. You know what? I had that happen
I've
to
never
me.
gotten mad. I've just been like,
Oh, I do. I get mad at myself because I know better. I know, like, just because it's impatience. I stop. I don't take the 10 seconds just to check my bag. I'm like, oh, I trust them. Nah, man. These people are, like, balls to the wall, getting cussed
how do you
at.
think they feel
Like,
when they're looking through that window, seeing you look through that meal or that bag, checking to see if their work was what they said it was? Isn't it better
if
to
they
have
did what
confidence?
they were supposed to, they would probably not care.
You're
And that's
speaking
not
of-
rude.
No,
That's not
it's,
rude,
It's
you
not,
know?
but it might be rude to the 25 other people waiting in line, circling around.
No,
the bag.
I pull off into the. So typically, like, if I'm very concerned, I pull off into. You know how most McDonald's and such have the like internet ordering parking right to the side.
Yep.
So I just pull into that, quick check, pull out,
Okay,
boom.
so fair enough. That's a good.
And the
sequence.
funny thing about it is, I don't think I've ever had food missed on my orders when I check it. But it's Murphy's Law. You know how, like, if something can go wrong, it will? Only the times where I drive, like, 45 minutes home, and I notice they, like, miss, like, $17 of, like, a $50 order or something. And I'd be like, oh, thank you.
Well,
This is
somebody's
great.
not eating today.
Yeah.
I kind of play to that too. I feel bad for. There's a lot of jobs that are going to be. You're going to kind of wonder, like, who's filling. I found myself doing the same thing at Culver's. I love Culver's, by the way. And they're some of my favorite.
Culver's nice, yeah.
It's just great. I mean, I'm from Wisconsin. We love cheese curds.
Yeah.
You're
Cheese curds
welcome.
are nice.
You're
yeah.
welcome.
They didn't
Anyway.
originate in Wisconsin, but anyways.
Well, we made them what they are. We made them as amazing as they are. So
See,
I go to Culver's. And
Cheese curds are how cheese actually always starts out, so he's wrong, but we can continue here.
But who breads them and soaks them in a vat of oil.
Oh no, if we're
and
talking
then-
about that, I think that was Wisconsin. But if we're talking about, I actually like the regular cheese curds.
Oh, you're talking like the
Just the
curdled-
cheese. Yeah, the
little,
cheese. Yeah,
I
like
should have
it.
brought some back for you my last
Yeah,
trip.
I like 'em.
So, just in general, I find myself going there, and I was like baffled by like the 25 employees they had in there, and they're all young
Yeah.
kids, and I'm like, okay, that answered my question: is who's gonna fill these spots?
Yeah.
Like in the future, like we're already dealing with the crisis where people aren't working. I'm attributing to that obviously because I'm playing the
Yeah.
at-home trading game, but
So
I
it
kinda
all
felt-
gets back to be nice to the people that you get involved with customer service. There's no reason. They're slammed. And remember, this is not a podcast. This is a show. Anybody who calls this a podcast will be banned and, not allowed to come on the show. Thanks for listening. I don't mean to cut you off, but we're running way over here. And we want to keep it to 45. I think we're running to about an hour, and we can always do extra episodes.
Edit.
Thank you guys for tuning in. You can find us. It's WHY ? On YouTube. It can be a little bit difficult to find, so we'll spread this around and, really think about what your why is and what you want to do in life and how you're going to get there. Have a great day. We're out.